Getting breaking news now, the Reserve Bank of India has lowered its repo rate by 1/4 percentage point to 7.25%. This is the third cut in repo rate this year. Let me now go across to Shweta Punj, Senior Associate Editor, India Today. Shweta, a welcome move there?
Absolutely. It was much unexpected lines and this was something that the Finance Ministry was also coaxing Raghuram Rajan, the governor, to do. There was a very vocal demand from the industry and of course whether homeowners, people like you and me stand to benefit, we'll have to wait it out and see because banks over the past few months have reduced interest rates, especially the public sector banks.
Okay.
And I think this should coax the private sector banks also to go ahead and cut interest rates.
What is the likelihood that the private sector banks will follow suit?
Well, it should happen. Moreover, beyond that, it also boosts sentiment a lot. In the markets. Like I was just going through the Sensex, and markets are also reacting very positively. Okay. So it gives out a very good feeler, and it infuses more liquidity into the system. You have people who will come up or who've been putting off that home buy or a car loan will go ahead and think that this might be a good time to go ahead and invest that money somewhere because domestic demand has been a bit tepid, and if we do see a poor monsoon, which is likely,
yes.
So that's really going to hurt rural demand a lot, and in that scenario it'll really help if cost of money gets cheaper.
And you were saying this was much needed. So how is it likely to boost the economy on the whole? Is that something that the government is looking at with this RBI cut?
So until now we've seen that the governor has been very focused on tackling inflation.
Yes.
He has really established this as RBI's mandate. Yes, previous governors have also done so, but the way Dr. Rajan has gone about it, RBI's mandate to curb inflation has become a very established concept. Okay. So he's gone about it very bravely, and now the macro fundamentals are looking better. You have inflation that's under control. You have growth which is looking up. Though there is some concern on whether factory output is picking up, whether the manufacturing sector is really picking up, because there are some there are some questions being raised on the data that is being put out on the basis of the new calculation. So in terms of whether domestic industry will go ahead and make investments or whether consumers will actually go and take advantage, provided this interest rate cut is transferred on to the consumer, we'll have to wait it out and see. But in terms of sentiment, it plays a huge role because Indian companies were going abroad to raise funds because the interest rates are some of the highest in India across the world. So that I think there will be some sort of an impact, and of course if domestic demand picks up, automatically industry stands to benefit. If they benefit, they create more jobs, so it could have a spiral effect.
Let me take this opportunity, Shweta, to also ask you a question about investments from abroad, because the Prime Minister has been pitching for it. The Make in India campaign is being taken abroad, but there is a sentiment that enough investment is not coming into India. What is the reason?
So a whole host of reasons, Maha. Yes, domestic industry, off the record conversations, they'll tell you that yes, we are pitching Make in India, but not much has changed on ground.
Yes.
Also the fact that a lot of companies have very stretched balance sheets. They took on too much and they could not deliver. So projects are lying abandoned.
Okay.
They don't have the money to complete those projects. And they are constantly, so it's like a constant blame game going on, and they're constantly looking at the government. But the point is that even their maths went a bit wrong. I think they completely over leveraged themselves. And yes, ease of doing business has to happen. You cannot have a scenario where to get one clearance you have to go through like 40 offices or 40 bureaucrats. That has to change, and there's a concerted effort being made to change that, but it's yet to translate on ground.
How are the RBI's policies facilitating this or trying to facilitate this?
So Maha, a lot of what we have seen actually, we've heard the finance ministry talk about how the government has brought down inflation.
Yes.
Partially yes, but it's also RBI. So RBI is the institution in charge of monetary policy, right? And you have the finance ministry whose inherent nature is to spend.
Yes.
So RBI is like the check on the finance ministry. I would rephrase that. Essentially, they both complement each other, but there is also an inherent conflict between the two institutions. So RBI has played a huge role. Let me tell you that in terms of NRI deposits that have come into this country from September last year till April this year, if I'm not wrong, they have been the highest that we've had in the last 10 years.
Okay.
And that's because of RBI's efforts, because RBI actually came out with a scheme where they assured investors investing into the country that we will give you currency protection, because the rupee was very volatile.
Yes.
So we will give you currency protection. As a result of that, investors have felt very confident. They have come in, they have invested money, and we are looking at NRI deposits of like 2 lakh crore rupees, which is a huge amount. So since that has happened, the rupee has stabilized, and I believe the RBI, what I've been told is that the RBI is already buying forward dollars, so that because this money is not free money, eventually we'll have to pay back.
Yes,
So they are already planning for the future.
Okay.
So if you speak to any economist or any expert, he will tell you that we are not as concerned about the currency movement right now, which was not the scenario even 1 year ago.
Yes, absolutely.
The rupee had really depreciated.
Yes.
So right now it's very stable, and a lot of credit for that goes to the RBI. So taming inflation,
Yes.
building up our forex reserves, enhancing investor confidence in terms of putting in the money here, really planning ahead in terms of like building a buffer for India. All these can be credited to the RBI.
Shweta, when the new government came in, there was intense pressure on the RBI to start cutting rates at that point. Dr. Raghuram Rajan took it slowly. Take us through how he has done it over the past 1 year.
So the good thing, like I mentioned, is that yes, there has been a lot of overt pressure on Dr. Raghuram Rajan, and he's not the only RBI governor who's had pressure. We've had other governors also who've been put under extreme pressure to cut interest
All right,
rates.
Shweta, Dr. Raghuram Rajan is speaking at the moment. Let's cut across.
Through some of the past rate cuts into their lending, headline inflation has evolved along the projected path. The impact of unseasonal rains has been moderate so far. Administered price increases remain muted, and the timing of normalization of US monetary policy seems to have been pushed back. With low domestic capacity utilization, still mixed indicators of recovery, and subdued investment and credit growth, there is therefore a case for a cut in the policy rate today. However, of the risks to inflation identified in April, 3 still cloud the picture. First, some forecasters, notably the IMD, predict a below normal southwest monsoon. Astute food management is needed to mitigate possible inflationary effects. Second, crude prices have been firming amidst considerable volatility, and geopolitical risks are ever present. Third, volatility in the external environment could impact inflation. Four, a conservative strategy would be to wait, especially for more certainty on both the monsoon outturn as well as the effects of government responses if the monsoon turns out to be weak. With still weak investment and the need to reduce supply constraints over the medium term to stay on the proposed disinflationary path, which is down to 4% in early 2018, we feel a more appropriate stance is to front-load a rate cut today and then wait for data that clarify uncertainty. Meanwhile, banks should pass through the sequence of rate cuts into lending rates. So I think the policy today I would characterize as neither conservative nor aggressive. It's in some sense a Goldilocks policy, just right given the current situation. In addition, I hope to be able to announce a number of bank licenses, at least one set of bank licenses by August end. We are undertaking a review of all regulations governing markets to see where there is scope for further liberalization once macroeconomic uncertainty diminishes. We're also doing a deep scrutiny of all our past regulations in general to prepare a greatly simplified list of master circulars. Thank you. Happy to take questions.
Who do we begin with? Saloni?
Thank you so much, Saloni from Bloomberg TV. Sir, in your last three policies, we had the word accommodative policy stance. It's not mentioned here. Looking at the inflation target that has been revised upwards, do you see that further room for monetary policy easing is very low, considering that from September we will see some base effect also on inflation? And another part, to this question, government, on the other hand, has been putting a lot of responsibility on RBI to prop up growth. Do you think that it's time that some bit of burden is shared with the government to prop up growth?
Well, start with your second question. I don't think the premise is right that the government has been putting the burden on the RBI. The government has been acting on its own to try and reduce bottlenecks, create new pathways for growth. So I wouldn't agree with that part. I think we both play together. And as far as the rate cut today goes, it is an attempt to ease the way for further investment to reduce medium-term supply constraints. As far as the first part of the question goes, we have done what we think is appropriate given the data. We have always said we are data contingent. There are possibilities if the monsoon turns out much better than forecast by various forecasting agencies, where there might be more room that emerges, or if the actions by the government are such as to contain inflationary effects. So we've used the room that the data gives us, and our policy will continue to be data contingent. Urjit, would you like to add something there?
No, if I could just say that, although the forecast for early January has been increased to about 6%, it's still a marginal increase, but we have emphasized the risks on both sides.
Lata?
You have said that a more appropriate stance, please. Quickly. Sorry, Lata Venkatesh, CNBC TV 18. You have said that a more appropriate stance is to front load the rate cut and then wait for data that clarify uncertainty. What is the data you're waiting for? What kind of uncertainty and what action? Also, you have so far maintained that you want a 1.5% to 2% corridor of real interest rates. If the inflation forecast is 6%, then you have already reduced the corridor to 1.25%. Are you willing to reduce it further?
Let's start first with the question of what data we're waiting for. Clearly, the biggest uncertainty at this point is the outturn of the monsoon, but also the policy reaction. As you know, there have been El Ninos in the past with reasonable rainfall, poor rainfall, which has not led to a fall in production, and a fall in production which has not led to inflation. So each path of this sequence is fraught with uncertainty. So we need to figure out how this plays out. And clearly government action is very important, because I think the link between all these has been broken by appropriate government action. So, for example, 2002-2003, there was very weak rain, but you had very limited inflation, partly because of government action. So I think we need to wait and see how all those factors play out. That would be the biggest factor that is on our mind right now. Of course, the pickup in the economy. We think the economy is in recovery, still slow recovery, as evidenced by corporate numbers, but it could pick up faster, or it could pick up slower. That will have an impact on how much room there is to play with. So these are factors that we will be looking for. Of course, there are the oil prices. We believe, as do most forecasters, that there is some upside checks on oil prices, which is shale production, which comes in at $70+ but does this prevent geopolitical shocks from affecting oil prices, and how does that play out over the medium term? OPEC is meeting this week. That will also affect how oil prices move. So there are a considerable number of uncertainties. As I said, we've done what we could given the room that current data allows. In fact, we've sort of erred a little bit on focusing on encouraging investment, given the need to alleviate medium-term supply constraints. Now, going forward, if more rooms builds up, we will have more room to take action.
My point is, as you said, you've erred a little. You've gone down below that 1.5% Lakshman Rekha that you gave yourself. Sorry. Will you be willing to err further?
No, I think the point we've always made is that we have to be on the disinflationary path that has been set. So what builds up on the disinflationary path, we will use. But we're not going to move far away from the disinflationary path. That wouldn't make sense, given that we've just building up credibility to stay on that path.
Good morning, Governor. This is Gopika from ET Now. My question is largely on the banking industry and the performance of the banks as we've seen in the fourth quarter. Many believe, or there is a view, that RBI has been behind the curve in fighting the asset quality in the banking system. Looking at the fourth quarter numbers, we've seen there are no reasons to cheer. RBI has been collecting data from banks with regards to their exposure to large borrowers. And bankers and also industry experts believe that RBI is not giving any early warning signals to the banking system to help them fight this asset quality issues. So, your comments on this?
Bankers fully know the asset quality issues. They've been sitting on them for a number of years. So they have to deal with them. It's not RBI telling them. They know about the asset quality issues. So I don't think RBI is in fact, what we're doing is unearthing cases where the asset quality issues are being suppressed. What we want is a quick cleanup of balance sheets and a restructuring of situations where assets can be put on track. Nobody gains when the asset is lying without further progress, without new funding to get it restarted, or without fixing all the problems that exist. The government has been taking actions to fix some of the problems. The banks have to take actions to fix other problems. Not recognizing the problem is the worst possible action in these situations. Where we are pushing at this point is to also advise further capital so that the banks can fully recognize the problems and make provisions accordingly. So in that sense, I think problems are known, they have to be dealt with, and often the best way to deal with them is to deal with them now. And that's what we've been pushing the banks. We restructured the whole process of recognizing these bad assets and working with them. That was the Joint Lending Forum process. Wherever there are problems, we are talking to the banks and trying to make the changes that are needed to make that move forward. We have given a number of relaxations where we believe the relaxations will help set the asset back on track. But where the primary purpose is to postpone recognition and not deal with the problem, we have been very reluctant. So when somebody says, don't make me provision for this, we say no. The real problem is when you don't provision or don't recognize it, it comes back to hit you in a much bigger way later. So do it now. That's been our message constantly to the banks.
From the Financial Express. So you've revised the growth number downwards and you said that there's a downward bias. Would you like to tell us how much it could be? 25 bips more maybe?
I think that the downward bias carries forward the CSO's own downward forecast for the previous year, that there has been some slowdown, especially when you look at the GVA, the gross value added terms on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Secondly, while there has been some progress, maybe even considerable amount of progress in clogging the investment pipeline, the evidence on the ground is mixed in terms of the actual production, and therefore these kinds of factors have been programmed in for the lower growth. Thirdly, also the issue how much the banks will be able to fund the extra credit growth going forward. They may not be able to do that immediately, given the capital requirements. So these are the downside risks to that.
How much of a downside do you see
Well,
at this point? I know it's difficult, we don't have, but
It's
given the corporate numbers where profits have fallen for a sample of 2,000 companies by 25%.
I think we've given our best
Our
estimate.
benchmark, yes.
So around that, you can pick any, but the best estimate or the most or the center of the estimate is 7.6.
हाय सर, दिस इज अमोल फ्रॉम जी बिजनेस. सर, आज का अगर रेट कट देखें तो टोटल पिछले 5-6 महीने में टोटल 75 बीपीएस पॉइंट हो जाता है. लेकिन अगर बैंकों ने जितना रेट कम किया है, विच इज़ नॉट मोर देन 25, अगर बेंचमार्क देखें तो इट्स 15 to 20 बेसिस पॉइंट्स. आपको क्या लगता है 75 के बाद कितना स्कोप बचा है बैंकों के पास रेट कम करने का, और उनके क्या चैलेंजेस है कर पा रहे हैं? एंड द सेकंड थिंग सर आई वुड लाइक टू अंडरस्टैंड इज, सिंस मोस्ट ऑफ द पीएसयू बैंक्स नीड्स कैपिटल, व्हाट कुड बी द वेज टू रेज द कैपिटल? अमलगमेशन की बात हो रही थी, मर्जर की बात हो रही थी, क्या वो एक अच्छा विकल्प हो सकता है?
Let me start with your second question on the capital issue. How much? First, I don't think anybody immediately needs capital for their needs. Going forward, they need capital both to absorb some of the provisions that they may need to make going forward, but for as the economy picks up to finance the lending to the new project. So that will be the need for capital. Capital can be raised many ways. One way is issue new shares if you have access to the markets. The other is the big owner, who is the government, putting in more money. A third possibility is reducing dividends in case the bank is not in a very healthy position. Those are all possibilities that need to be considered. Rights issues instead of a targeted issue. Those are all possibilities that need to be thought of. On the first question, 75 basis points so far. You can see the markets. If you look at the commercial paper markets, you look at the CD markets, there you see the effects of the rate cuts. Okay. If I look at bank fixed deposits, which I invest in because that's the only thing I can invest in, the rate has come down from 9% to 8%, 100 basis point cut in fixed deposits. So over time, this has to be passed through to the lending side. Now, obviously, not all the financing sources for the banks react the same way, and some of them take time to react. One of the things we are working on is this, revising the base rate structure so as to reflect the marginal cost of funds. And we have a framework. We are discussing with the bankers to get their feedback.